Uh, the review of the agenda. So I think it's pretty straightforward. Is there anything anybody wishes to add to the agenda at all, or is this fine? All right, seeing none, I need a mover or a seconder to approve the agenda. It's moved by Sean, seconded by Dan. All in favor? That's carried.
Aye.
Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move forward. So we're into reports, and uh, Sam is going to give us just an update on what was announced and kind of what we know today, and then we'll take questions after she's made her remarks. Everybody has received, obviously, a copy of the press release, a copy of our statement. Uh, so we'll go from there. So, Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Chair. So the report that's attached is a summary of what's happened in the last week, as well as to provide you with background should you get any questions at council or calls from constituents concerned. But just to give it in a nutshell, on Friday, the minister announced that they will be creating a new agency. So that'll be the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency. And this agency is intended to provide a framework to centralize leadership, make the governance of all of the conservation authorities more efficient, provide strategic direction, and also to help with some of the modernizations that the minister announced. So provincial permitting process in terms of managing permits and tracking permits as they move through the system, as well as providing some support for additional technology improvements to floodplain mapping, floodplain management, those types of things. One of the other changes that the province has proposed is that they are going to be reducing the number of conservation authorities from 36 to several. So there have been items in the press that have indicated that there's proposed boundaries, but we haven't seen any of those proposed boundaries released yet by the province. In terms of timelines, the province has mentioned that they will be releasing within the next couple of weeks an ERO post that will speak to the proposed boundaries of the new conservation authorities' jurisdictions, as well as the criteria that they are proposing to use to define those areas. So we're anticipating in the next couple of weeks that that will be released and ready for comment. They've mentioned as well that in the spring they'll be releasing updates to the Conservation Authorities Act to enable this new provincial agency, and that they are anticipating that there'll be a transition time with that, and then come January 1st, 2027, we'll transition into the new model that they will be proposing. So what does that mean for the GRCA? The minister was pretty clear in the press conference as well as in the press release that it's business as usual and that the province does very much value the programs and services that conservation authorities provide to the public, and that they anticipate that there will not be any changes to the programs and services as we administer them today. So that's good news, especially for staff. They have mentioned that, well, actually, we have a Conservation Ontario meeting on Friday as well. But I think at this point, there's not a lot of more information than what has been released. They did say that the current term of all of the GRCA boards will ride through until the end of 2026. So from that perspective, the governance structure that's in place now will continue 2-year terms. Yeah, and so that's a really high-level summary of the information that we have. Again, we don't have any more information than what was provided through the press conference from the minister and the press release from the province at this point in time.
Yeah, and I think in your discussion, you've probably covered off the next steps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so why A and B have been covered off. So at this point, it's time for questions from the board of Samantha or myself. Go ahead, Doug.
Well, first of all, you said they're going to reduce it from 30 to 6 to maybe even smaller.
No, so it's 36 in total, but they are proposing to reduce them, and the minister said to several. So we don't know what that means yet.
Okay, so we have 36 and they're talking several, reducing it down to what, two or three maybe?
They haven't really indicated that.
But
We're not sure.
several. I'm trying to look at the word several from their language. And so there will be what, a specific board running this thing in the end? Is that what's happening? Elected board or appointed by the province?
So through you, Chair, we don't know yet. We just
Yeah,
know that they're
well,
creating a provincial agency, that they are looking at reducing the number of conservation authorities, and that additional information will be coming out shortly.
okay. I have
Thank you,
lots
Doug.
of comments, but I'll leave it for now. Okay.
Well, let me just say this, guys, that I suspect that you will heartily support the idea of an ad hoc committee of the board dealing with this. And I would suggest that, because you're quite frankly into it right now intellectually, that you put pen to paper and send a note to Sam and I with your comments. And Doug, please do that as soon as you have the opportunity to do it,
I
because
will.
that will help the ad hoc committee form our position as we post that on the ERO and quite frankly, speak in other opportunities. I mean, for example, if we have an opportunity to meet with the minister, uh, then that will form part of our dialogue with the minister. So please go ahead and put pen to paper as soon as you possibly can.
Yep, yep.
Other questions? Any other questions or comments? Yes, David, go ahead. And then Sue.
Yeah, not mentioned, but was money, how it's being paid for. Was that discussed at all? And if I had to guess, I would say it's still coming from municipalities, at least program one. Was that talked about at all? Or is that those discussions are probably still to come?
Through you, Chair. So the minister did say that municipal levy will still stay in place,
Yeah, okay.
and that there will be governance. But that's about, I don't really have a lot of the details in terms of what that looks like or what that actually means.
I think,
Okay.
David, you have to assume that it's status quo until you hear differently.
Yeah.
So until you hear
Right.
differently, municipal levies are still going to be required to fund the GRCA.
Okay. Or whatever
Hey,
takes its place. Yeah.
yes. Any further questions, David, or comments?
No, I just, if you're dividing up the province, isn't every part of Ontario part of a conservation authority somewhere? Because we all get drained by rivers. That's not the case, or is that the case?
Through you, Chair. No, it's not. It's actually conservation authorities are really developed where the urban areas are to help manage water management. So there's Northern Ontario, for example, I think has 3 or 4 CAs. Predominantly, most of the land up north is Crown land, but there are not conservation authorities all over the province.
Okay. And I think that's got me peaked more than anything. How do you divvy it up so that it makes sense? But I guess we'll see that very soon. Okay, thank you.
Well, if you've got some ideas, David, put pen to paper and let us know. Sue is up now, and then followed by Mayor Davis.
I just wanted to say, if you wanted us to speak, the Roma conference is coming up now. They're looking for delegations in the next 2 weeks. We have to put in for it. So if you want us to speak to the ministry, it'd be a good idea to give us a heads up and we can apply for the delegation.
Sue, can you send us a note with some specifics about that, and then we'll deal with that through the ad hoc committee?
Okay, sounds like a plan.
All right, thank you very much for letting us know. Kevin, go ahead.
Sorry, I've fallen out of Zoom practice. Um,
A new mayor, new
so,
mayor.
so looking at, in terms of input, we can provide all the input we want in terms of opposing what they're doing, which I find with this government that generally doesn't do anything. They seem pretty determined to move forward with this. And the centerpiece of it is going down to 7. So my thought is our best strategy should be making sure one of the 7 is based on the GRCA, and the GRCA extending its tentacles further abroad than what it currently encompasses. So wondering if any thought has been given to, assuming 2 of the 7 would be in Northern Ontario and 5 in Southern Ontario, what would the logical groupings be? I'm sure everyone's been speculating, but I'd be interested in knowing from senior leadership. You must have been thinking about this, and what are your thoughts?
So through you, Chair, so the 7 that are proposed were not tabled with the announcement, so that hasn't actually been publicly released yet. So we're waiting for when the province releases their proposal. With that is coming more detail on the criteria. I think some of the challenge, I will say that some of the challenges that the province identified around lack of consistency among CAs, different processes, the number of municipalities within a CA for sure is something that could definitely use improvement on. I think the one thing with going with the larger regional offices or larger boundaries, the challenge is really going to be making sure that we still have captured accurately and engaged the local watershed communities as well as the municipalities to ensure that the programs and services that are delivered within that watershed are tailored to the needs and interests of that particular watershed. So I'm interested to see what the proposal is of the government in terms of how they're still going to honor the true fundamentals of watershed management, especially at a watershed scale, and how that's going to be incorporated in their proposal. Because I do feel that that is the fundamental principles of conservation authorities, and that needs to be captured somehow in whatever proposal that they table for the amalgamation or consolidation.
Well,
Kevin,
Samantha, I'd say
I would add
this.
to
I
that.
mean, can I
If I might,
say, okay, go ahead.
yeah, just a second. I would add that that's a very sensitive discussion. And while we might have a perspective on what conservation authorities might logically align with us or amalgamate, making that public might be a little bit difficult. But I take your point about should we be thinking about it? Yes, we should. But it probably is one of those things that we keep close to our vest at this point. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I agree, but I want to make sure that we're thinking, I agree that we would not be debating what we think it might be publicly at this point, but we have to start thinking strategically that way. You got to think one step ahead of this government and assume that they are set on doing 7, 5 of which would probably be in Southern Ontario, figuring out how we fit into that, almost thinking, we should almost think like we're the minister and what will we do? And how do we best position the GRCA in that struggle, which will be taking place over the next year and a half. So I'm glad to hear that, John, that you're already thinking that way. I'm not surprised to hear you're already giving that some thought. That's all I'll say.
Appreciate that. And Kevin, if you've got anything that you want to put pen to paper on and send, then please do. It's important that we have that kind of feedback because, as you also know, it appears that the timelines are going to be sped up. And so we need to be able to respond as quickly as we can intelligently. And we can only do that through your participation. Are there other questions or comments? Yes, go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, my apologies. It must be my hearing aids. But so I understand now we're going from 36 authorities and they're suggesting 7. Am I
7
correct?
regions.
Pardon?
7 regions, not 7 authorities.
7 regions. Okay. All right.
Possibly. Okay.
So, and we don't have any idea the governance of these at all, the 7.
Well, we think the governance is an agency.
I'm sorry, what?
A new agency is being created that will provide the governance.
Over each of the 7 or over the, like each for
over
each
the, over
separate?
the entire, over the entire group of conservation authorities across the province of Ontario.
That sounds awful, but anyways, because it really takes away from local
Yeah.
control.
Pardon me?
It takes away from local control and local input.
That's part of the issue.
Yeah, it's a big issue. Anyways, all right.
The other issue, Doug, is who's paying for it and who has representation.
Yeah,
So
it's
public accountability,
what's
right?
happening. What's happening in Ontario with this government is you start looking at what they're doing. They're consolidating everything out of Queen's Park. They're talking about getting rid of school board trustees, as an example. Okay, they interfere locally, like in speed cameras, bike lanes, all of that stuff. And so what we have is an overall umbrella that's shrinking, and we're finding ourselves being controlled out of the premier's office. That's what's going on here. I have a lot of concerns about where this is heading for the authority. I really do. Anyway, so leave it at that.
Thanks, Doug. James, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Chair. So firstly, I just want to say, give some apologies to staff. I know this is not our doing, this is provincial government, and the next year and a half of uncertainty, I'm sure it's going to be a very difficult challenge to carry on your shoulders. So just want you to know that I'm sure this whole board supports you 100% and we'll do the best we can for you. On that note, if you haven't, this is talking to the board, if you haven't watched the YouTube press release, I would encourage you to do so. They do speak of several conservation authorities. I make a joke in the Seeley household that 7 means 7 because it's in the name, but that's not the case. They also speak to the fact that these will be defined by watersheds. Well, my understanding, conservation authorities are already that way. So to me, it means we're going to see amalgamation. We're going to see giant conservation authorities. They're not going to dissect watersheds in half. Where my concern, like it's all concerning, but at the end of that press release, the press keep inquiring with minister about the staff, and the line they were providing was there will not be any layoffs or nobody will lose their job. I forget the exact terminology, and the press keep pressing, and they keep saying they're going to redeploy, and to me that's where this ad hoc committee needs to focus its attention. We need to ensure that our staff are kept whole. If they just create this Hassan guy as the grand poobah of the conservations, which so be it. I hope his stock in his circle of professionalism has gone down a bit after seeing him stand up there. But anyhow, and we keep our CAOs and then we still operate and they standardize how developments go through, then maybe this is something that we can it can be palatable to us. If they come in and try to send our CAOs and deputy CAOs to attend gates to take money for people and say that's a redeployment to the front line, they have great frontline skills, that's constructive dismissal. So we need to, so this ad hoc committee, I can put this pen to paper, Chair, I'm sure that's exactly what you're going to say to me after I finish my little rant, is our priority, as I think it was Mayor, where do you go, Davis stated that this government, once they make a decision, you're not changing their mind. We need to focus on protecting the integrity, or our staff, not their integrity, but the integrity in the sense of keeping them whole. And that if they do force this onto redeployment and this constructive dismissal, that they're going to bear the cost of that. They're going to pay these people. So that's kind of where I'm at, high level digestion, but I look forward to the conversation going forward.
Thanks, James. Dan? You're on mute. There you are. Oh, no.
We could hear him earlier.
Yeah, Dan, you're still on mute, unfortunately.
How about now?
There you are. Good.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Okay, I need to talk louder. My wife says I talk too loud, but anyways, I'll talk louder. So let's be honest here. Let's start that there is a need for change within, as we've evolved for decades. But this is, to me, what we've seen proposed so far, too drastic, too much. And I don't want to blow sunshine up our butt, the GRCA, but we are, I think, one of the crown jewels of the CAs. operated for decades, done a great job. And we have a very large watershed that we look after. I think, as Mayor Davis pointed out, and James did it, this is a chess game. This is, strategy has to be involved here. You're dealing with the government. But as municipal politicians, that when we deal with developers, it's better to work with them than against them, because at the end of the day, they're going to win. So let's try to get what we can. One of the things that is most unique about us, the GRCA, is that we have a land claim versus us. Six Nations, the Haudenosaunee claim 6 miles on each side of the Grand from mouth to source. So we should be involving them if they're not already. Phil Montour, very well spoken, he's presented to us. I think that needs to happen as well. So I guess without getting into the weeds here, because we can discover and talk about so many things, I think it's best, as John, you suggested, put pen to paper, the ad hoc committee, weed through it, decipher what's needed, how we're going to move forward, and then present to the board how we want to move forward to having those discussions with the minister. I think that's best.
Thanks, Dan. Well said. Any other comments or questions before we go to the next item on the agenda? Yes, go ahead, Pam.
Through you, Chair. I like a lot of what I've heard. To me, it comes back down to almost, do we fight back or play nice? That I like the last point about the chess, that we have to play this strategically. And I do think that it's important that we sort of draw a line in the sand and say, okay, this is what we're willing to do, but this is not something we are willing to do. I like the fact that we're putting the needs of our staff front and center and protecting them as much as we can. And that would be a line in the sand for us. I like the fact about bringing forward the Haldeman track, because that could be our ace in the hole. And generally just quite pleased with the discussion so far. And I hope we play a good chess game.
Well, we have a few chess players on the board, that's for sure. Any other questions or comments before we go to the next item? All right, seeing none, then we'll just move forward. So the next discussion is around the ad hoc committee, and that typically involves Sean and myself and others. And my suggestion is that if we can get 3 other members of the board to show an interest. Sue is interested, and Sue had served with us actually on the Conservation Act. And James and Dan, I see your hands up. That's 3. Is there any other interest, or is everybody happy with having these individuals serve? David, you're interested?
Always interested. Yep, always interested.
Okay, so that's 4. Should we leave it at 4? Is everybody happy with 4 plus Sean and myself? Okay, let's go with that then. I need a motion to approve the ad hoc committee. Yep. Oh, Gord, sorry. Go ahead.
I'll move that. I'll move that.
Okay, and a seconder? Yeah. Second by Pam. So everybody's clear as to who it's a 6-member ad hoc committee, and you've recorded who is on that.
Yes.
Okay. And so we have a mover and a seconder. All in favor? That's carried. We could be meeting and we probably should be meeting as early as next week. It'll be virtual, and we'll try to work around everybody's schedule, and we'll try to keep it timely. But I can assure the board and staff that there's a lot of work to be done, and it has to be done quickly. And so I'd like to see a situation where we have at least a draft to bring back to the board at the November meeting. It may not be, it probably won't be final, but at least it'll give you a sense of kind of where we're headed, and get your feedback as to whether or not, it fits with your perspective on this, and then we'll revise accordingly. Okay. So In terms of next meetings, I hope there isn't a next meeting of the entire board to deal with this. I hope that we can deal with it now through our regular board meetings and the ad hoc committee. But we'll keep you fully informed. Is there anything else anybody wishes to raise with respect to this matter before we adjourn? All right, seeing none, can I have a mover or a seconder to adjourn, please? Moved by Doug, seconded by Sue. All in favor? It's carried,
Aye.
and I just want to say thank you very much for getting on this call on short notice, and stay tuned. There's a lot to come. Have a great